Welcome to Everyday Linux User. In today's video I'm going to show you how to install Recalbox onto your Raspberry Pi 5 so that you can play all sorts of games from the past. Retro gaming at its best. Now I'm going to show you how to do it for Windows, how to do it for Linux as well. So what you need to do first is you need to go to a web browser. You will need an SD card or a USB device. I recommend using a USB device, but you may need to follow my other guide showing how to boot from a USB device. USB SSDs are a lot faster than a standard SD card. If you're using an SD card, you will need to put the SD card into an SD card reader and then plug that into USB drive. Obviously make sure there's no data on there that you want to keep. Go to raspberrypi.com/software and then scroll down to see the install Raspberry Pi OS using Raspberry Pi Imager. And what you need to do is click on the download for Windows if you're using Windows, Ubuntu if you're using Ubuntu. If you're using the Raspberry Pi itself, it should already be on there, but you can also install it using this command. You can see that's downloading quite quickly, and we can close that down. If we go to the file manager, you'll see the file has downloaded. We can double click on that, select yes, and click install, and then you can just click finish because it will run automatically, and you should appear at this screen. I'm now going to show you how to do the same thing using Linux. Now I'm using Debian, but you could be using Ubuntu or any other Debian based distro. So if we double click on Firefox or whichever browser you're using, again, go to raspberrypi.com/software, and this time you want to download for Ubuntu, and you can see it's highlighted, and that's downloaded in the top corner. To install the imager, open a terminal, go to cd downloads, type ls, and what you want to do is type dpkg -i and the name of the file. So in this case, it says you require sudo privileges, so we're going to type sudo bang bang, give it that, and you can see it's now installing, and we can run Raspberry Pi Imager by typing sudo rpi imager, and that's loaded as well. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to set up your USB drive. So click choose device, Raspberry Pi 5, operating system. This is the important bit. Scroll down to emulation and game OS, choose Recalbox, and then the Recalbox for Raspberry Pi 5. Choose your storage. In this case I'm writing to an external USB, which is an SSD, so I'm clicking there, but you might use an SD card or USB, whatever you want to use. Click next. Note that everything's going to be wiped, so make sure there's nothing on there that you want to keep, and then click yes. And that's going to take a little while to write, so I'll come back when it's finished. The image has now been written to the card. You should see the message write successful. You can now remove the SD card or the USB device you're using and plug it into the Raspberry Pi and boot from the Raspberry Pi, and you need to do that in the first place to set up Recalbox. So we'll do that now. So here we go, I plugged it in. I turned on the switch for the Raspberry Pi, and you can see that the Raspberry Pi is booting up into Recalbox. You see it's loading the interfaces, and there we are. We now have Recalbox set up. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is put some games onto Recalbox. So what we're going to do is we're going to shut down, and then we're going to plug in our USB device back into another PC so that we can copy ROMs onto the USB device. To shut down the system, press the spacebar, press the A key, and then press the A key again. So I've plugged the USB device into my computer, so if I go to File Manager now, you'll see I've got three options: Share, Overlay and Recalbox. It's Share, which is where you put things. So I'm not going to tell you where to get ROMs from, but if you have some ROMs, where you want to put them is into the ROMs folder, and you can see there's a folder for each machine. So if I put that over there and open up another file manager, and I go to my emulation folder here, you'll see I've got some ROMs here. So I've got some N64. So I can copy my N64 files into the folder. And you can do this whether you're using Linux or Windows, just use your Windows Explorer to do the same thing. It is worth noting that some game systems require a BIOS file that you need to put onto your drive as well. So if I go to the share folder, you can see there's a BIOS folder. Some of them go in the actual folders for the game system, and some of them just go straight into the BIOS folder here. So this is Recalbox loading up. I plugged in an Xbox 360 controller. If I press the options button, we can go into main menu, and we can go to controller settings, and you can see it's picked up the Xbox 360 controller. We can go into sound settings, and I've got audio mode on no sound, but if I turn this on, that's the default music you get when you're at the menu screen. So if I go back out of there, we can go to our different systems. So under Super Nintendo, I've got all these games here. And you can see it puts a nice border around the outside. And I've got a Bluetooth speaker plugged into the Raspberry Pi as well. Pressing escape takes me back to the menu, and I can choose a different game. Pressing the B button on the Xbox controller takes me back out to the main menu, and I can choose other systems. So for instance, I can choose PlayStation. It says that I've got a BIOS missing until it's in the correct folder. So I've obviously put the BIOS in the incorrect folder at this moment in time. You can change the emulator, so you can see this is using the Retro. We could go for Medlefin, we could go Swan Station, Duck Station. So here is Actua Soccer for the PlayStation. I put the BIOS in the correct folder. It wasn't easy to work out, but I've done it. And this is a game I used to play when I was younger. This was pre-FIFA, really.
Alan Shearer. Shearer. Shearer! Oh, what a super goal that was. Welcome to what the locals here are calling the match of the year.
Well, I can only hope it lives up to my expectations. I had been relishing the opportunity to see these two sides meet. They both like to attack. Been scoring and creating a lot of chances in recent matches. And let's wait and hope that this match is the same.
So Campbell, David Beckham, Paul Gascoigne. Yuri Jokaev. Maurice! What a wonderful finish. The volley beat the goal.
There are different start screens each time you reboot. I found with the PlayStation Portable that you have to... it's hard to find the escape key to get back to the menu. So I'm not sure what key you're using for that. So we've got Liberty City Stories, Vice City, so let's have a go at that.
Gotta take a little time.
Listen, if plans change...
Now whilst I'm playing this on a PSP emulator on the Raspberry Pi, I do have this game on the Xbox 360, on the PlayStation, and I have it on the Nvidia Shield as well. Vice City is my favourite game, I think, out of the Grand Theft Auto series, purely for nostalgia reasons. I'm a child of the 80s. So yes, Vice City is one of my favourite games of all time. Now, this emulation isn't as good as playing the one that you get on the 360 or even the Nvidia Shield, but it is playable. Unfortunately for the PlayStation Pro, the PSP, there is no escape key to get out to the menu, I don't think, so the only thing you can do is shut down the Raspberry Pi. Yet another loading screen from Super Recalbox, and this time it's doing a Super Nintendo style theme. For a bit of Nintendo 64 action, I've got these games here. We'll try Road Rash, always a good one. And the escape key actually works on the N64 emulator as well. This is the Game Boy Advance. This is Prince of Persia. Now, what I find with the Game Boy Advance is that it actually emulates better than the actual Game Boy Advance actually played the games in the first place. I've got a Game Boy Advance, and to be honest, it wasn't the greatest device ever. I've no idea how to play this game, by the way. Wouldn't be a games emulator without a bit of Atari 2600 action and the classic known as Dig Dug. First game console I ever received was the Atari 2600. And of course, then there was Jungle Hunt. There's about 4 levels. You do the rope swing, then you kill the crocodiles. You don't actually have to kill the crocodiles, you just have to evade them. And then there's the rock boulder thing that you have to dodge, and finally you have to save your girlfriend. Depending on how the crocodiles move, depends how many points you get. So if they're like slow going horizontal like that, then you get 100. If it's the one that goes up and down, you get 300. Obviously if you get caught, you die. You kids don't know you were born. This is what it was like as a gamer back in the early 80s. Now this level you get the smaller boulders that you jump over, but then you get a big boulder every so often like this one, and you try and duck underneath it, or you can try and go over it. And you see I did really badly there.
Gary J! PA! Fight!
So for each game system you can go into options. So if I wanted to edit this, you can see it's running with SNES 90X, but I can choose any one of these other consoles if the one you're using doesn't work very well. You can change descriptions, you can give it a rating, you can change the aspect ratio. This is Mortal Kombat 3 on the Sega.
Round 1, fight.
Because I don't play these games very often, I forget what the spammy buttons are to actually give the Now I'm going to try Mario Kart 64. It says I'm missing a BIOS for it, but I know it runs. I'm not going to make it. Also has a Nintendo Entertainment System. Basically, any ROMs that you've got, most systems are catered for. This was a great game. I loved this game growing up. So let's talk about how viable the Raspberry Pi 5 is as a retro gaming system. Now, the version I'm using is the 8GB version. It's going to cost you about £75, I think it is, for Raspberry Pi 5. If you get the cooling system on top, that's probably another £10, that's £85. If you put it in a case, probably another £5 to £10, that's £95. You did the power supply, that doesn't necessarily come with it. So over £100 now. Game controller, you can pick up an Xbox 360 controller or a basic game controller for about a tenner, a wired one. If you want a speaker like I've got there, it's probably about another £10. So probably talking £120, £130 thus far, and you haven't got the monitor, the keyboard, the mouse. You need the USB drive, you need the SD card, or a USB drive to put the games and the console onto. So whilst it seems cheap straight away, it's not as cheap as you'd think it would be. Now, if you've already got a Raspberry Pi 5, now obviously putting Recalbox on it is free because you just download it and put it onto the USB drive. The games, where you source them from, there's legality aspects to that. I think if you've got the games already, it's probably less of a problem than if you don't own the games. If you don't own the games, clearly you're at some sort of risk. But yeah, the Recalbox itself is excellent. It's easy to set up, easy to put the games on it, and it's easy to navigate. If you use the Xbox 360 controller, it's very good indeed. So that's really the end of the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Linux User.